Hi class, this is Mrs. Albritton. Today we're going to continue factoring polynomials. So far we factored polynomials that had a greatest common factor, or GCF. But what happens in cases where the polynomial has a GCF of 1? Today we will focus on factoring trinomials whose A value equals 1. In part 1, let's review multiplying binomials using the distributive property. I'm going to do the I do sections, and then I'll also go through the we do section. And then you should have worked on the you do section. If you haven't, go ahead and work on that. For part A, I'm going to multiply x plus 2 times x plus 6. Using the distributive property, I'm going to go ahead and draw my arrows. So I distribute the first x times each of the terms inside the second parentheses. So essentially, I'm multiplying x times x, which equals x squared, and then x times 6, which is 6x. Next, I'm going to distribute the 2 times the x and the 2 times the 6. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 6 is 12. So I'm not done with my problem yet because I see a 6x and a 2x. These are like terms, and like terms have to be combined. So to finish my problem, x squared plus 8x plus 12. My final answer ends up being a trinomial because it has 3 terms. So my 2 binomials multiplied together to give me a product of a trinomial. Now I'm going to do part B. Again, using the distributive property, I'm going to distribute x times x and x times negative 4. X times x gives me x squared. X times negative 4 gives me negative 4x. Same thing for my negative 3. I'm drawing the arrows to show you what I'm doing. Negative 3 times x gives me a negative 3x. And negative 3 times negative 4 gives me a positive 12. Because a negative times a negative is a positive. But again, I'm not done yet because I've got to combine any like terms. And here I have a negative 4x and a negative 3x. Together that gives me a negative 7x. So my final answer, again, is a trinomial. Now for the we do section. Same thing. Distributive property. N times n and n times 1. Then I'll do 2 times n and also 2 times 1. But don't forget, that's a negative 1. N times n gives me n squared. N times negative 1 is a minus 1n. I don't have to put the 1 unless I want to. Now 2 times n is 2n. 2 times negative 1 is minus 2. When I combine my like terms, I have a negative 1n plus 2n. That gives me a positive 1n. And I do not have to put a 1 in front. And then I've got minus 2. So my final answer becomes a trinomial. So again, the product of 2 binomials will give me a trinomial answer. And lastly, when I distribute t times t and t times 2, then I'll do negative 9 times t and negative 9 times 2. T times t is t squared. T times 2 is 2t. Negative 9 times t is negative 9t. And negative 9 times 2 is negative 18. When I combine my like terms, I will have 2t minus 9t is negative 7t minus 18. So there's my final answer. And again, this was reviewed because we've got to remember how to multiply binomials so that we can actually get to the process of factoring trinomials, which is what we ended up with when we actually multiplied each of these binomials. So I'll see you in part 2.